Welcome to the Premier Present Show. This is Ryan Giffen. I'm accompanied by a 30-year educator, technology expert, 21st century expert, 22nd century expert, whatever you want to call it. David Warlick, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Ryan.
Talk to us a little bit about how you have seen. Obviously, one of your greatest strengths is that you have been around for 30 plus years. Tell us what your perspective is of education and how that can influence and change the perspective of others.
Well, when I first started teaching, I taught history for about 5 years before I saw my first computer. When I first started teaching, the personal computer hadn't been invented yet.
Wow.
Computers really had nothing to do with my vision of what teaching and learning and the classroom and all were when I first started. And I think one of the important parts of this is that when I first started teaching, I really had no reason to believe that teaching, education was going to be changing in any substantial way over the next 30, 35 years of my career. And that's part of what technology has done, is it's placed us in a time in a situation where we cannot clearly predict the future we're preparing our children for. So that's one of the messages that I try to deliver, is that it's not just about making sure that our children know how to use technology, but what has happened with technology has really affected our goals in teaching. It's not just preparing them for the 21st century, but it's preparing them to be ready for an unpredictable future.
Not only is David just an incredible mind, incredible think tank of himself, David's very funny. So I'll tell that about David. I love one of the intro things that you talk about in your speech, and I know as you guys are looking for speakers out there, you're always wanting someone to entertain. David, what's your favorite, most how would you call it, the more syllables used in that word than should be, or talking about Southern accents?
Well, I do have a Southern accent, and sometimes it comes out stronger than others. I'm sensitive to that, and I like to make sure that there's no communication barrier. So many times when I'm presenting in places, especially north of, say, Maryland, I'll ask people to pronounce the word grits. And I've got to sometimes explain that the proper Southern pronunciation of the word grits is two syllables, and I find that it relaxes an audience
Sure.
who is not accustomed to the two-syllable pronunciation. It relaxes them to practice saying grits, grits.
That's fantastic. I always know that is a valuable component to bringing in a speaker like yourself to get people to relax and enjoy themselves. One of the topics that I really want to focus on that I think is very applicable is cultivating your personal learning networks. It's one of the speeches that you do focused on staff development. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, as I said earlier, we find ourselves in a situation where Eric Hoffer put it very, very well. He said something to the effect that in a time of rapid change, the learner is the person who is going to inherit the earth, so to speak, whereas the learned is going to be perfectly prepared for a time that no longer exists. And therefore, it has become critical that at the same time that our children continue to learn about arithmetic, mathematics, science, so on. What's perhaps even more important is that they understand that they've developed skills and habits in continuing to learn, and this is something that is happening now in the education profession and other professions as well, where professional educators and attorneys and so on are having to continue to learn and starting to utilize some of these new tools. What's often called Web 2.0,
Right.
but some of these tools, such as blogs, blogging, Twitter, Facebook, even that some of these tools are actually very, very effective if you can cultivate a personal network of connections with people who have things to say to help you do your job. And so that presentation in one of my books is about some of the techniques that professional educators and others are using to remain connected and to be able to walk into the classroom every single day with something that's brand new. I typically start my keynote addresses now by explaining something, telling a story, whatever, about something that I've learned in the last 24 hours. And then I explain, I'm telling you this story because I didn't know about this yesterday. This is something I've learned in the last 24 hours. And it's important that part of being a teacher, or really any kind of profession today, is being a master learner. And being able to continue to learn something new that helps you do your job better and better.
You mentioned a little bit in there about implementation. I feel that we talk a lot about the theory, the need for this. One of the areas that I think you do well at, and what I've had groups that have booked you before, David, have said that you've done great at, is that he's given us great tools to take back, whether it's to the classroom, whether it's to, as an administrator, back to their teachers. What are those tools that you think right now are so important for them to take back to begin succeeding and growing in education today?
Well, it's a good question, and it's a question that I get, and others who are sort of talking this language get very frequently. Is what's the first thing? What's the one tool I need to bring back that's going to get me started? And it may surprise some people in the audience, but I would say right now it's probably Twitter. Because its power is in its simplicity, and you can surround yourself. You can follow, celebrities and things like that, where you're going to get, just what I would consider to be junk, or you can follow people who are in your profession or other professions related to yours who are tweeting ideas, resources, web links, and so on that help you do your job. But one thing that I try in my presentations to bring out is that that what we need to focus on is not necessarily the tools. I mean, the tools are there and they're absolutely necessary, but what do these tools mean? What does it mean to be a master learner? What are the responsibilities in being a master learner? And one of my keynotes is really comes down and says it's not technology that we need to be focusing on. It's not technology we need to be integrating. It's a different kind of literacy. It's an expanded notion of what it means to be literate in this time when information is increasingly digital, networked, and abundant.
Whether it's technology, implementation, humor, you also motivate very well. What's the one thing, as we wrap this up, what's the one thing that you love to be able to motivate the teachers or educators that you're speaking with?
Well, I'm at heart a storyteller, and storytelling I feel like is perhaps the most effective way for me to motivate an audience. But I think the most important part of a good story is the surprise. And I, when you're surprised by something, when you're hearing a story and you're thinking that it's all going in one direction, and then the punchline takes you in an entirely new way of thinking about something, I think that's what motivates, and that is a very powerful learning pedagogy, so to speak.
What's the one thing that you want to tell people when they're considering David Warlick to come and speak to their conference or to their teacher in service? What's the one thing that you want people to think of when they're considering David?
The one thing.
There might be many.
That's a hard question. But I think that the most important thing is not necessarily the tools and the individual ideas, but it's simply a different mindset on doing your job, accomplishing your goals, seeking for personal fulfillment in a time of rapid change. and that many of us, especially my age, are frightened by this because it's a time of uncertainty. I don't know what's going to be happening. It's a time of uncertainty. But the other side of that, if we understand how to prosper in this time, the other side of that is the opportunity. We live in a time when we have an opportunity to solve just about any problem, accomplish just about any goal because of what we're learning and because of what we have at our fingertips today.
David, thank you so much for your time. Just a few fun questions here. I was actually just in Charleston, South Carolina, and enjoyed some amazing shrimp and grits at Hank's Restaurant, downtown Charleston. Probably the best shrimp and grits I've ever had. Maybe the only shrimp and grits I've ever had. How do you like your grits?
Shrimp and grits, cheese grits. It fills you up. You don't need anything else to eat the rest of the day.
Well, there you have it. Cheese grits and shrimp and grits, and one of the leading thinkers in technology, 21st century education. Please consider David for your next event. He has only gotten rave reviews from the groups that we have brought him into. So, David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ryan.
And you have a wonderful day.
You too.